Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to talk about troubleshooting the top of your backswing. All right guys, Eric here outside at the Bethlehem Golf Club. I want to talk to you today about troubleshooting the top of your backswing, or how to fix the top of the backswing if you have issues there. Now, before we dive into that, a huge part of being able to fix the top of your backswing or any part of your swing is having feedback. Have you heard that before? And the best way to have feedback that I've found the past 15 years of doing this stuff is through live view. So if you haven't heard of live view, we use live view. It gives you feedback instantly as you're hitting balls. So you're watching yourself as you're making the movement. Now, I always recommend video so you can see yourself, see your swing. It'll always look different than it feels, and it requires exaggeration. And video is good and phones are good, but what's even better is seeing yourself as you're doing it. The best thing we've seen to do that so far is live view. We'll put the link in the description down below. I cannot recommend highly enough that you purchase a live view so you can see what you're actually doing if you're serious about actually getting better and changing your swing. So check out the live view golf. Now, what you're going to use the live view for is checking the top of your backswing. So I want to talk about how to troubleshoot the top of your backswing. This is something I don't think we've done a particular video on. I talk about it a lot in my actual lessons, online lessons or live lessons, or the members at CogornoGolf.com, but we haven't done a video. So here it is. So when we're talking about troubleshooting the backswing, I'm really talking about sort of the top of the backswing, or the second half of the backswing. So let's first review kind of the things we're looking for in the initial parts of the backswing, and then what you need to do up to the top. So I have a stick on the ground here that we tried to line up pretty roughly close to the target line, and I'm going to use another stick to do some demonstrations. Now, if we kind of break the backswing up into three parts, let's look at each section here. So let's say part number one, I'm going to take a little stick here, a little lineman rod driving marker on the side of the shaft here for demonstrations. Now, let's say the first part of the backswing is from setup to first parallel, or we'll call that the takeaway phase. Let's assume we have a normal setup, humongous assumption. Let's assume that we have a good takeaway, another large assumption. Let's assume our takeaway is like this, where the club head's even with my hands at first parallel. The club is roughly over my toe line. Okay, let's just assume some of these stock things. From here, the goal from your takeaway to left arm parallel, we'll call that phase two, is to go from here to the point where a couple of things happen if I'm demonstrating properly. Number one, the hands, the depth of the hands. How far in did they go? Where should my arms be? Your hands here should be in line with roughly your right pec or your right bicep. They shouldn't be in line with your left pec, left bicep. You should be in line with your right pec, right bicep. It means your left arm or lead arm is in some amount. That's part number one we're looking for. Part number two is, where should the shaft be in space? Should the shaft be straight up and down? Should it be straight horizontal, or somewhere in between the two? Well, as a stock model, we're looking for the shaft. If you can see this stick here, the stick and the shaft should be roughly pointed at the ball target line, okay? I like to, if you look at stock models, see, let me re-grip this thing here, takeaway. I like to see the butt of the club pointed at this line, or somewhere between that and the toe line. Toe line would be pretty vertical, but somewhere between here and maybe halfway to the toe line would be nice. I'd rather not see the club pointed outside of that line at left arm parallel. So those are two phases of the backswing. Let's quickly recap that one more time. Let's assume the first phase, club head even with the hands, shaft basically down the toe line. From there, you go in line with the right pec. The butt of the club and the stick is basically at the ball line. That would be on plane. Now, if you don't have those two things in there and you're trying to fix something later on, it would probably be good and smart and intelligent to look at those areas first, because the thing you're doing later might only be off because one of those two things. So I would probably turn this, don't turn it off, maybe pause it, okay, and then check those two and then come back and then watch the rest of it. Let's again make a just a ridiculous assumption and say we're here kind of perfect. From here to the top, what should happen? Well, kind of ideally, let's say you kind of keep these alignments. So your hands are in line with your right pec, right bicep. They can go up, in, or some amount of both. They should go some amount of both, meaning they shouldn't go straight up, they shouldn't go straight in, they should go here, where they continue working up and in, basically over your right shoulder. this shaft, if this line went forever, would point basically right on it. That would put my club on plane, okay? Now, some of you guys from there don't do all that, okay? You're here and then you go here, or you go here, or you go here, or you go some form of here, somewhere in there, and it's not on plane or perfect. How do you troubleshoot that? I want to talk a little bit about how each kind of body segment, your shoulder, arms, hands, could figure that out. But I want you to understand that as normal. Boom, here, good. Boom, here. And then at the top, and even just getting those stock things down with a stick on the side of your club and a stick down the ball target line would be a good start. But let's talk about how to troubleshoot some issues that might pop up later into the backswing. Okay, so let's get back to our left arm parallel position. Let's say from here, you want to get the club more laid off. Let's say you get the club kind of down the line or across, or you do something and you and your coach, or me if I'm your coach, determine, hey, I want the club more laid off. I want it more on plane. I think that'll be easier for you. What are the things you should be looking at? Let's kind of talk about the arm and shoulder structure. If I'm in this sort of position, normal, left arm parallel here, if I want the club to get more horizontal or more kind of laid off, there's a couple things I could do. One has to do with my shoulders. That is my trail arm from the top, okay? I could externally rotate this, which would kind of be like, think more elbow towards the ground. That would do what? What does that do to the shaft when I do that? That makes it more laid off, right? More external rotation, which means then the opposite of that would be true. Maybe you're over here and you want to get kind of more down the line. Well, if external rotation gets the shaft more laid down, then internal rotation, or elbow more out, flying right elbow, would make the shaft do what? It would get more vertical or steeper or more down the line at the top. Here would be external rotation. Here would be internal rotation. So what you do with your elbow and shoulder, rather, would have a big impact on that. If you want to get more laid off, you can go more in external rotation. I'm having a hard time speaking. Or if you want to go more down the line, you can go more internal rotation, flying right elbow. That's one part. The second part I would look at is how your arms, we'll call your forearms, from elbow to wrist, rotate. If I'm here and I want the shaft more laid off, right, or horizontal, I could do what? I could rotate my forearm some amount. That would be my right palm more towards the sky, or supination of my right arm. That would be my left palm more down towards the ground, or the back of my hand more up towards the sky. It'd be pronation of my left arm. So supination of the trail arm, pronation of the lead arm. What does that do to the shaft? Makes it go more horizontal or laid down, right? So now I know, wait a minute, I want to have my shaft more laid down. I can externally rotate my shoulder, would be one, and I could add some forearm rotation. But Eric, that's really laid down. Okay, you need to find a middle ground. Okay, you should have a live view, should be checking this, and you should be finding a middle ground between these two. But if you're too far down the line, or you're too laid off, and you're trying to find a middle ground, it will absolutely require more than you think. You need to exaggerate more than you think. Meaning, let's say you're down the line like this, and I say, hey, let's get here. You need to feel that you're literally like this. Okay, your shaft needs to feel horizontal to the ground more than you think so. So we have those two things. We have shoulders, we have arm rotation, okay? And the last part I'd look at would be kind of how the wrists work. So if I go back again like this and I want it more, let's say laid off from here, if I bend my right wrist back more or flex my left wrist, does the shaft get more horizontal or more vertical? Here's normal. Here's me flexing my left wrist, bending back my right wrist. Not only does that change the face alignment, it also makes the shaft go more laid off, right? If I do the opposite, cup my left wrist, flatten my right wrist, that makes the shaft go steeper, flatter, steeper. So I have wrist conditions, but that's not all the wrist can do. They also can hinge and unhinge. If I'm at the top and I unhinge my wrist, does that get steeper or more flat? What about if I hinge the wrist? Unhinge, hinge, unhinge, hinge. So that plays a part in it too, right? So there's really 4 parts. Listen, you don't need to know all this to pass a written test. The point is, if you're trying to change the top of your backswing, troubleshoot it, you need to know what to look for to actually change it. You have shoulder, internal, external, that's one option. You have forearm rotation, you have wrist conditions in 2 different fashions. That's 4 things to look at when you're watching. Now, if that's overwhelming and too much for you, no problem. I know how to do that and look at it. So you should send me your swing if you're a member of CogornoGolf.com, and I can look at it and show you what to look for. But if you want to start to troubleshoot it, you need to do that. Now, what I want to talk about first before we close this out is how to actually start practicing these things, but those are the pieces you're looking for to troubleshoot. Okay, so let's talk about how to actually practice this. Now, keep in mind, this is a troubleshooting video basically for where the club is in space. If you have wrist conditions or club face issues, that's not what this is about, but we have a million other videos, so check those for the wrist conditions, the hanger, etc. It's just club. Now, when you're practicing this, the first thing you have to go into this with two assumptions. Number one, if you're not recording yourself, I don't want to say don't even practice, but like you have no clue whether you're doing it right or not, and you're going to base it off results, and that's foolish. You have to be recording yourself or give yourself feedback. For this thing in particular, video is probably the only way to do it. Other things you can put stations in, this is video. Two is you have to assume you need to do a lot more than you think. Let's say your shaft is here. Let's say it's here. Let's say it's here in space, and you want your shaft to really be here in space. For whatever reason, you determine this is no bueno for you, you want here. That shaft moved 2 inches. At speed, with a real swing to go from here to here, it needs to feel like it's here. It needs to feel a foot, at least, of difference for it to move an inch or two. So you have to know that going in. So you don't watch your video and you're surprised, you have to know that. And then how do you start practicing it? If we're talking specifically about this part of the swing, what I would do is focus specifically on this part of the swing. So how do you do that? I would take my normal setup, make all the assumptions that everything else is okay, and I would go to left arm parallel and pause and get actually here, and then feel from here to the top whatever I'm trying to feel. Let's say again in this thing, you're trying to get it more laid off or on plane. So from here I'd say, all right, let me try the shoulder internal rotation, external. So let's go elbow more down towards the ground and really externally rotate my arm. All right, what does that feel like? I like that, I don't like that, what does it look like? Start from there. Let me add in some arm rotation. What if I get my right palm up towards the sky? Okay, what does that feel like? Okay, that's kind of like that. Okay, what about the wrist structures? And go through some of them and play around with it. But big picture, think about where the shaft is in space. If you're here and you're narrowing down the line and I say, no, I want you out here, start by going halfway back, and then from halfway back to the top, get the club way over here, okay? Unhinged, external rotation, arm, blah, 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 all of it, and make some down swings from there and record it and see where you're actually at before you do a million of them, so you have a starting point. So then you would start to hit some. I'd go halfway back, pause, feel whatever you feel from there to the top, and then make a downswing. And then start to hit some shots and go slow, still with a pause. I go here, left arm parallel, feel what I'm feeling more exaggerated, and then just hit one. Now that was a 9-iron I hit, I don't know, 110 yards maybe. So that would be where I'd start with. I'd roll back, check my video, or I'd have my video right in front of me with live view, see what I was doing, and then adjust. That's how you actually change a swing. I do the same thing, go halfway back. I'm feeling more laid off, club horizontal, and then I'm just hitting a shot. I don't care how I hit that shot. I care what did I do with that motion? Did I change it? So that's the pieces I would start. Those are the 4 main things to look for in terms of troubleshooting the top of your swing, in terms of where the shaft is at. Wrist conditions are a different video, a whole different thing. Make sure you give yourself feedback. Focus on that part when you're changing it. Go slow, exaggerate more than you think. Don't worry about where the ball goes. As always, hope you guys enjoyed this. Hey guys, thanks for watching today's video. If you liked the video, please do us a favor. Click the like button down below. Click the notification bell if you haven't. Also, please subscribe. Another reminder, every Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are live here on YouTube for Rapid Fire Golf. Would love to see you guys there. Thank you.